The Galactic Council had grown complacent in its prosperity. For 3 millennia, the vast chambers of Nexus Prime had echoed with the gentle debates of 14 species, their differences resolved through careful diplomacy and shared wisdom. The Great Wars were ancient history, relegated to museum displays and academic discourse. Chancellor Vexhai of the Altarian Collective barely glanced up from his trade negotiations when his aide whispered urgently in his ear. Unknown vessels approaching the outer rim. They refused to identify themselves through standard protocols. Pirates, most likely, Vexhai murmured, his attention focused on the lucrative mining rights to the Kepler Nebula. Dispatch a patrol squadron. His aide's crystalline features flickered with concern. Sir, there are over 10,000 ships, and their energy signatures. They're unlike anything in our databases. For the first time in decades, Vexhai felt a chill of genuine alarm. He had lived through 2 centuries of peace, and the idea of a fleet that size was almost incomprehensible. Contact Fleet Command immediately. But it was already too late. The unknown vessels had bypassed every outer defense grid without triggering a single alarm. They moved through space with a precision that spoke of technology far beyond current galactic standards, their ships arranged in perfect geometric formations that seemed to bend the very fabric of space-time around them. Admiral Korthek stood on the bridge of the GSS Harmony, the Council's flagship, watching his tactical displays with growing dread. The approaching fleet was massive beyond comprehension, not just 10,000 ships, but 100,000, emerging from hyperspace in waves that seemed to go on forever. Vessel configuration analysis? He demanded. Unknown design paradigm, his tactical officer reported, her voice tight with professional fear. Materials we can't identify, propulsion systems that shouldn't be possible. Sir, some of these ships are the size of small moons. Korthek had commanded fleets for 60 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The vessels were sleek and predatory, their hulls a matte black that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. They moved with an organic fluidity that suggested they were as much grown as built. Attempt communication, he ordered. The response came not through their communication arrays, but directly into every mind on the bridge, a telepathic broadcast that bypassed all known protective protocols. This is Fleet Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Human Reclaimant Armada. We have returned to settle old debts. The name hit the bridge crew like a physical blow. Human, the species that had been driven from the galaxy 3,000 years ago in the final act of the Unity Wars. The barbarians who had refused to accept the enlightened rule of the Galactic Council. The Deathworlders who had chosen exile over submission. Impossible, Korthek breathed. The humans were scattered to the galactic rim. They had no technology, no resources. The lead human vessel, a kilometer-long predator of impossible design, transmitted visual communication. Admiral Vasquez appeared on their screens, and every being on the bridge recoiled. She looked human enough, but wrong in ways that transcended physical appearance. Her eyes held depths that spoke of technologies beyond current understanding, and when she smiled, it was with the confidence of someone who held all the cards. 3,000 years ago, you gave us a choice, she said, her voice carrying harmonics that suggested artificial enhancement. Submit to your authority or face exile. We chose exile. We chose to forge our own path among the dark stars. Korthek found his voice. Admiral Vasquez, surely we can discuss. Discussion ended when you turned our colonies into glass, Vasquez interrupted. When you scattered our children to the cosmic wind. When you declared that humanity had no place in your perfect galaxy. Behind her, the bridge of her ship was visible, and it was wrong. The technology was organic and mechanical simultaneously, grown rather than built, with interfaces that responded to thought rather than touch. The crew members were recognizably human, but enhanced in ways that suggested millennia of directed evolution. "We have spent 3,000 years in the dark between galaxies," Vasquez continued. "We have conquered the void itself. We have made alliances with entities that your science cannot even detect. We have become something you cannot comprehend." The tactical displays showed the human fleet spreading throughout Council space with impossible speed. They had ships at every major world simultaneously, a logistical feat that required technology so far beyond current galactic capabilities that it might as well have been magic. "What do you want?" Korthek asked, though he already knew the answer. "What any exile wants upon return," Vasquez replied. "To reclaim what was taken, to settle what was started, to finish what you began." On Nexus Prime, Chancellor Vexhai watched in horror as human ships materialized above every Council world. His communication arrays exploded with panicked reports from across the galaxy. The humans hadn't just returned, they had returned everywhere at once. "They're demanding unconditional surrender from all member species," his aide reported, his usual composure shattered. "They're giving us exactly 1 standard hour to respond." Vexhai accessed the historical archives, desperately searching for information about humanity's exile. The records painted a picture of a species too dangerous to coexist with civilized society, warlike, aggressive, and fundamentally incompatible with the Council's vision of galactic harmony. What the records didn't mention was that the Council had struck first, that humanity's aggression had been defensive responses to unprovoked attacks, that the exile had been genocide disguised as mercy. "Sir," his aide whispered, "we're receiving a transmission. It's from Earth." The blue world appeared on the main display, but it was no longer the primitive death world the Council remembered. Vast orbital structures surrounded it like mechanical rings, and the planet itself pulsed with an energy that suggested complete mastery over its environment. A figure materialized in the Council chambers, not a hologram, but an actual physical presence that had somehow been transmitted across impossible distances. She was human, but enhanced beyond easy recognition. Her very presence warped reality around her. "I am Empress Helena Kozlova, heir to the void, daughter of exiled Terra," she announced, her voice carrying the weight of 3 millennia of accumulated power. "Your ancestors cast us out for being too dangerous for their perfect galaxy. They were right to fear us. They were wrong to think exile would diminish us." The assembled Council members, representatives of 14 species who had ruled the galaxy in peace and prosperity, cowered before this single enhanced human. "You have 1 hour to decide," Kozlova continued. "Unconditional surrender, or we remind the galaxy why our ancestors were considered too dangerous to live among civilized species." As she vanished, leaving only the scent of ozone and the lingering sensation of vast power barely contained, Chancellor Vexhai realized that the golden age of the Galactic Council was over. Humanity had returned from the dark between stars, and they had brought the void with them. The descendants of exiled Earth had spent 3,000 years becoming something that transcended the species that had cast them out. They had evolved beyond recognition, allied with entities from dimensions the Council couldn't perceive, and mastered technologies that turned the very concept of reality into a tool. They had returned not as the scattered refugees who had been driven into exile, but as something far more terrifying, the logical endpoint of human adaptability, when given 3 millennia to perfect the art of survival in impossible conditions. The galaxy would learn, as Earth's children spread through space with inexorable purpose, that exile had not broken humanity. It had perfected them